Welcome to High Heels and Hidden Truths. I'm Vanessa Murphy, investigative reporter at KLAS TV in Las Vegas. Today, we are going to take a look at the criminal case of Robert Tellis, a politician here in Las Vegas who killed a journalist. Take a look.
Clark County Administrator Rob Tellis is behind bars tonight, accused of killing local journalist Jeff Gehrman.
Did you commit this murder?
And not everybody saw the evil side that we did.
After that charge, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
How do you explain your DNA under Jeff Gehrman's fingernails?
I don't know. I didn't have any scratches on me. I was not at that location ever.
Now, I remember first learning about the murder of Jeff Gehrman. I actually didn't know him. He worked for the Review Journal here. He was a longtime reporter, and our paths just never crossed. But I had heard that he was an excellent bulldog reporter, a family man. We learned quite a bit about him, actually, during the trial, which we will get into. But I want to go to the first press conference that police held. Now, when my friend had informed me that Jeff Gehrman was murdered, certainly the questions running through your mind, right? Was this random? Was this because of his job as a reporter? Did he upset someone he was looking into? And again, Metro Police then held this press conference. Take a look.
It is unknown whether Jeff Gehrman was targeted because of his job as an investigative journalist or if this was connected to a series of burglaries in his neighborhood. In the meantime, Metro Police are asking for the public's help. They're saying this is the suspect. They're asking viewers to pay attention to the walk, the clothing. They're also searching for this vehicle believed to be a red GMC Yukon. This investigation began Saturday morning after Review Journal investigative reporter Jeff Gehrman was found stabbed to death outside his Northwest Valley home. Metro Police say he was killed Friday morning, though. Captain Dory Corrin says there has been a series of burglaries with a suspect also wearing construction-type clothing, but he is also saying police believe this is an isolated incident and the public is not in danger. I asked why.
We still stand by the idea that it is an isolated incident. There's nothing that's an absolute in our business, unfortunately, and we are exploring all possibilities in this investigation.
Due to the nature of Gehrman's work, Metro has enacted the major case protocol, meaning more resources are dedicated to this case. But again, a motive is still not yet known.
Now, after that press conference, we still had questions. Police telling us they thought it was probably an isolated incident, but they couldn't say 100%. Also at the time, throughout southern Nevada, there was an individual burglarizing places, including restaurants. And the dress in the surveillance video was similar. It was sort of that type of hat of that individual walking. So it was a little confusing. Could this person have escalated and then tried to burglarize a home and then ran into there were so many questions. And then we start piecing more together. And I can't say enough about the Review Journal staff. Those reporters dug through Jeff's things, right? They looked at the stories that he was looking into. And eventually, they realized Robert Tellis has a similar vehicle, the same vehicle, to the one police showed us, that SUV. They see it at his home. They have staff there, and he's actually washing his car. They're piecing this together behind the scenes. And Jeff Gehrman had done several stories on Robert Tellis. So Robert Tellis was the Clark County Public Administrator, which many of us did not really understand what the public administrator does. But when someone passes away and they have an estate and it's not initially claimed by family members, I believe this is the best way to explain it. The public administrator's office steps in. It's tedious work. We don't often hear about it. So he was the head of that office, the elected official. And there were employees in that office, longtime employees, who realized that Robert Tellis started to treat employees differently. And they didn't like it. And they noticed he was moody. He wasn't treating people fairly. And then they also believed that he may have been having an affair. He was a married man. They believed he may have been having an affair with someone in their office. They obtained video of Tellis and that employee in the back of a car and getting out, and the woman sort of straightens her skirt and they get in the car. I don't know about you, but I've never been in the back of a car with a boss like that, right? So people were piecing things together. And Jeff Gehrman was exposing this. And those employees said that they had tried to talk to the county, they tried to get help, and that Jeff Gehrman was the only one who would listen to them. He did these stories. Robert Tellis lost the Democratic primary. He was angry about those stories. He had tweeted, he had made a video. So he was upset, and the Review Journal staff started looking into him. And again, they realized he has that vehicle. So we learn police are then at Robert Tellis's home with a search warrant. Take a look.
We just saw Clark County Sheriff Joe Lombardo leave the scene after speaking with investigators by the home that is being searched. I'll step out of the way so you can see this is an active investigation, as you mentioned. Sources tell me Robert Tellis is with investigators right now as they work to figure out if he's connected to the murder of longtime investigative journalist Jeff Gehrman. Here at the home of Tellis, again, an active scene. And a couple of things to note here. Jeff Gehrman had done several stories in the Review Journal on Public Administrator Robert Tellis and the problems within his office. Tellis then lost the Democratic primary. Yesterday, we showed you video of a vehicle police were looking for, the suspect vehicle, this GMC Yukon. Our photojournalist shot video of that vehicle, or a vehicle just like that one, here earlier at the home of Tellis. Metro Police also released video of the suspect, and you can see this person appears to be in disguise, wide brim hat and construction type clothing. Metro Police say the suspect had been casing the area prior to the crime. Gehrman was found stabbed to death outside his Northwest Valley home Saturday morning. Police say he was killed Friday morning. Now back here live, police tell me they will be here for at least another few hours. A lot of moving parts here. Again, Robert Tellis currently with investigators as they work to figure out if he is connected to this journalist's murder. And we just saw Clark County Sheriff Joe Lombardo here at the scene.
Now, that live shot was in our noon show that day, so it was a dynamic scene, but certainly also behind the scenes, you have a journalist murdered at his home. You have police executing a search warrant at a politician's home in connection with the journalist's murder. It was shocking. And I also want to point out in that video of the suspect walking wearing that hat, the Review Journal had video of Robert Tellis walking, and they noticed that the walk was similar. So there's a lot of moving pieces. It's a dynamic scene. Police are working to find out if Robert Tellis is the killer. They take him into custody, and then they are expediting a DNA test to see if DNA of Robert Tellis matches DNA from the crime scene and DNA found on Jeff Gehrman. So they don't have a match yet that day. Again, that live shot is around noon. And then a few hours later, police are dropping off Robert Tellis back at his home because they believed, or prosecutors believed, they didn't have enough evidence to officially arrest him yet. So police are dropping him off back at his home, so I try to talk to him. Take a look.
Did you do this? Did you commit this murder? Did you do this?
Can you tell us anything?
Why did police tow away your vehicle?
Do you have a comment?
Okay, so a couple of things here. You see him wearing that white suit. Well, because police took his clothes. Also, some individuals questioned, why would you ask him that question? Do you really think he's going to say yes, right? That's the one question everyone knows, right? And based on my experience, sometimes when you ask a question like that, even a lie can give you answers. And I'll give you an example. Back when I first started reporting, a woman had been killed by her husband, but he wasn't the official suspect yet. I found him at their home and I asked him if he had anything to do with it. He couldn't even squeeze out a tear. And I knew he would be arrested, and eventually he was. My point is that sometimes in asking a question that you don't think someone will answer, whatever answer they give you may even give you the right information. Let's take a break. Welcome back to High Heels and Hidden Truths. I'm Vanessa Murphy. We are continuing to take a look at the criminal case against politician Robert Tellis, who killed Review Journal investigative reporter Jeff Gehrman. Now, you saw there, Robert Tellis had just returned home after being taken into custody by police. Police behind the scenes are expediting DNA in the lab to see if it's a match, to see if Robert Tellis's DNA matches the DNA they found on Jeff Gehrman's body. So there's this wait. Robert Tellis is back at his home. Police learn there is a match, and they want to take him into custody and arrest him for murder. They show back up at the scene a couple of hours later, a few hours later, and Robert Tellis will not leave his house. Police are trying to negotiate with him. So initially, the media was outside Tellis's home. And when police realize he is not surrendering here, they move the media back and they block off the neighborhood. And more, that perimeter expands around the house and we are pushed away. He was not coming out. Eventually, police go inside the home and they find him with superficial wounds and they take him into custody. Take a look.
Sources are telling me Robert Tellis is in custody after we've been here for hours in sort of a barricade situation. Again, Robert Tellis, public administrator who has become the center of a homicide investigation, is now in custody, according to my sources.
Let's take a break. Welcome back to High Heels and Hidden Truths. I'm Vanessa Murphy, investigative reporter at KLAS TV in Las Vegas. We are continuing to take a look at the criminal case against Robert Tellis, the politician here in Las Vegas who killed longtime and well-respected investigative journalist Jeff Gehrman in September of 2022. Now, Robert Tellis, before he went on trial, there was this back and forth with him in court, many hearings. Tellis wanted to represent himself. It's never a good idea. The judge seemingly trying to talk him out of it in the best way she could legally. Tellis wanted to represent himself. Eventually, he does connect with a well-respected legal team here in Las Vegas. And he goes on trial in the summer of 2024. And the evidence had just piled up. Let's talk about it. You have that video of the suspect walking in the neighborhood. The walk matches the walk of Robert Tellis. You have shoes, a hat, other evidence tied to the crime scene found in Robert Tellis's home. You have the suspect vehicle, that SUV. Guess who has one? Robert Tellis's family has the same SUV. You also have video of the murder. It is from across the street, it is far away, but you see an individual stabbing Jeff Gehrman. You see that individual leave and actually come back to look at Jeff Gehrman. Cold, cold. So you also had Tellis denying he had an affair with his employee, right? And he was the Clark County Public Administrator. He was the elected official. He was the boss. You had him denying having an affair with his employee. Guess what? During the trial, he admits it. He had an affair with his employee after lying for years. So he takes the stand himself, which again is never a good idea. And he loses. He loses. The jury convicts him of murder. I will say his legal team, which included Robert Draskevich, toward the end of the trial had showed a photo of sort of a silhouette in a vehicle similar to the suspect's vehicle. And the way he had presented it raised questions. And it threw off some jurors. It threw off some in the media. We didn't know about this photo. But again, you go back to all of that other evidence, including DNA found under Jeff Gehrman's fingernails matching Robert Tellis. Now, Robert Tellis tried to say he was framed and Metro Police had it out for him, and he tried to point the finger. None of it made sense. At one point on the stand, he complained about me, that I tried to talk to him at his garage of how appalling it was. Give me a break. So again, he takes the stand, he loses. Here's a few clips from the trial.
I had to see pictures of Mr. Gehrman's body, in preparation for the case, and it's obviously it's ugly. But when the medical examiner testified, that's the first time I'd learned how Mr. Gehrman was murdered. Now, I think it's the way that he was murdered speaks to, I think, something or someone who knows what they're doing.
Are you really denying that your DNA is underneath the fingernails?
Without knowing the truth, yes, I am.
Okay, well, you've heard witnesses testify.
Right.
So the DNA lab's in on it too?
I don't know. I don't know what point this sample was collected.
So that was prosecutor Chris Hamner. He was a bulldog throughout that trial. And again, it was evident that Robert Tellis had been lying about being framed, about, eventually learning about Jeff Gehrman's murder. It was evident he was lying. And the fact that he took the stand, the jury could see his stories, his claims just didn't match up. So the jury convicts him of murder, and then he has to be sentenced at a later date. I believe he was sentenced that October, and he's sentenced to life with the possibility of parole. I believe the sentence was 28 years to life, again, with the possibility of parole. Now, Tellis, his background, he is an attorney. He is in prison right now. I know he vowed to continue to fight his case as he claims he's an innocent man. Right now, at last check, he's at Ely State Prison up north. But again, 28 years to life. Now, when someone has life with the possibility of parole, when they have these hearings and go in front of the parole board, people, loved ones of the victim, can go and testify and say, hey, parole board, please do not release this person. So again, Robert Tellis gets convicted of murder. The sentence is life with the possibility of parole. And this was emotional for many people, right? Jeff Gehrman's family was in that courtroom every day of the trial, and they had to hear and see horrible details of his murder, including that video from across the street and including crime scene photos of Jeff Gehrman's body. It was tough. And throughout this trial, they remained stoic. They were kind in their interactions with us. And we wanted to respect their privacy. Of course, we gave them the option if they want to talk to us and talk about Jeff and share his story. But some of them did take the stand and testify that Jeff Gehrman was a loved family man. So again, we wanted to respect their privacy. This was also a big moment for those employees. I believe in part they blamed themselves. Well, if we hadn't gone to Jeff, would this have happened? But they were so grateful for his work, and they wore pins to show their dedication to him. They wore red to show their support for Jeff Gehrman. And he was loved as a journalist, again, as a family man. I want to play when the verdict was read. If you've never been in the courtroom for a verdict, it's emotional. And the judge and the staff, the marshals ask people to control themselves and don't have outbursts. But you can't help but get emotional and tear up when justice is served. And we know in this case, Robert Tellis killed Jeff Gehrman. And throughout the trial, from Robert Tellis, it was lies, lies, lies. Take a look at the verdict and then hear from some of the public administrator employees.
Guilty of first-degree murder with use of a deadly weapon.
So you could definitely relieved and grateful and pretty much exhausted right now. And it's still very emotional, and so we just have to kind of work through that.
I just had to believe that the system was going to work, and that if we just had faith and we showed up and we persevered, that we would get what was right for Jeff. And I think we have a little taste of that today, that the jurors saw what we saw, which was this was not a good guy. This was a dangerous man running our office.
In addition to Jeff Gehrman's family, those employees were in that trial, watching that trial day after day, and they handled it with grace, just like Jeff Gehrman's family did. I also want to acknowledge the attorneys, Robert Tellis's defense team, and the prosecutors showed respect for one another as they fought it out in court. And I can't forget the Review Journal staff. They had to cover this murder trial, and the victim is their coworker, and many of them were friends with him. They respected him. So that was tough for them, but they also handled it with grace. Now, after Robert Tellis's conviction, I interviewed him in jail. I will play that for you in a future episode. Thanks so much for watching.